Welcome to episode 49 of 50 Ways to Succeed at Work, where you hear stuff about ways to succeed even the most well-intentioned colleagues, advisors, careers officers and HR departments may never get around to mentioning. Today's episode is about you being a hornblower, someone who shows you add value and why modesty can backfire.
Only last week, I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick.
No mistaking that boaster. Boxing champion Muhammad Ali getting into his stride and praising himself. At work, should you boast or blow your horn like Muhammad Ali? Is that the best way to make people realize what a valuable contribution you're making? Or is boasting at work wrong, even obnoxious? Let's start with a reality check. If you don't tell people what you're doing or the great work you're achieving, how are they supposed to know? Suppose a task needs your attention outside of regular working hours. Will your supervisor know that you're doing this? Unless you share what's happening, your senior colleague may never realize the extraordinary effort you're making. It can be a mistake and harm your chances of succeeding at work by not revealing that you're going that extra mile. Incidentally, if you haven't already heard it, visit the podcast website 50ways.site and listen to episode 37 on the extra mile. You might find it helpful. Early on, we learn to refrain from boasting. Instead, we're encouraged to be modest and urged not to blow our own horn. General disapproval of self-praise really stems from a cultural bias. For example, Sweden is one of the most innovative countries globally, yet its business culture deplores showing off. As a Swedish cultural commentator explains, Sweden believes in keeping boasting to a minimum and finding a consensus so everybody is on the same page. That tells us something useful about the whole practice of blowing your own horn. There's good boasting and unacceptable boasting. When or whether to blow your own horn needs to be carefully calibrated. What makes boasting acceptable is when, as human beings, we have an urge to be recognized and rewarded in some way for our efforts. Here's Eileen McDarr, a well-known executive coach, author, and motivational speaker, talking about rewarding dogs for their efforts.
And so that when the dog went out, found someone, was so excited, could keep going on. And I thought, wow, that's the lesson. If a dog needs to feel successful in order to continue on, how much more the human system?
Most achievements at work come from a team effort. This seldom depends on one talented individual. It can take a whole group working in concert to get something important done. Sensible boasting at work is therefore best based on joint celebrations. Nobody claims more than their fair share of credit. It's humanity rewarding itself with uncontrolled and heartwarming bragging about their achievements, something everyone can enjoy. On the other hand, isn't there something obnoxious about a colleague walking around with a smirk and a know-all attitude, an individual boasting about doing great things and being in contact with everyone who matters? So there's a big difference between bragging and informing, between celebrating and boasting. Bragging is talking yourself up, like a walking advertisement. You insist that everyone hears your message, and as often as possible. When you inform, you expect a different response. If you voluntarily take an extra set of responsibilities, let your senior colleagues know, especially if you're not pushing for a pay rise. You're the only person who knows how hard you work. For instance, when colleagues leave for home precisely at 5 p.m, they don't know you stay until 8 o'clock. That's especially so if you already work from home. When your boss is out in a razzle, having a good time, she may not even be aware that you're slaving away at putting out fires on the home front, so be sure to tell her. By avoiding informing people of your achievements, you can undermine your successes without realizing it. Modesty has its rightful place at work. Being reticent about your special efforts makes little sense. In Sweden, the anti-boasting culture makes it more difficult for those who succeed. They even avoid driving a luxury car and don't dare show when they've done something good. So what should you do about blowing your own horn at work? The best approach is to let other people do the bragging for you. Your feelings of self-esteem and self-confidence mean that you should be able to take pride in your achievements. It's also entirely healthy to brag about yourself to yourself. There are indirect and direct ways of drawing attention to yourself at work. However, there's one kind of praise likely to leave you undamaged in the eyes of others. And this is when you report on a conversation in which you were praised, and the evidence can be verified. The odds are therefore stacked against you for doing any bragging at all. It's usually okay to report on your accomplishments if you're sure you're not hurting anyone else, such as team colleagues, who may resent you claiming exclusive bragging rights. Few people will fault you for being happy about the result of a successful effort. Your enthusiasm and desire to talk about it may go a long way without even needing to exaggerate or boast. And you want to know the best boast of all? The loudest horn blowing you should do? It's for your colleagues and their achievements. By not bragging about yourself, you ensure that others will be more likely to root for your continued successes the next time. So what action am I proposing? First of all, informing is better than bragging at work. Secondly, if you must boast, make sure there's good evidence to back it up. And thirdly, brag on behalf of others and watch your credibility at work grow. And my takeaway from all of this? Self-praise at work won't improve your chances of success. Instead, inform people who matter about your special efforts and be sure to blow the horn about your colleagues' successes. You've been listening to an episode of Andrew's 50 Ways to Succeed at Work. For more episodes, subscribe free to my regular weekly podcasts. You can catch up on past ones at the 50ways.site, where you can also become a foundation member with access to e-learning units, transcripts, further reading links, and the forum, where you can ask questions, share problems, and join a growing community of people who seriously want to succeed at work. Thanks for listening, and bye for now until next week.